Okay, let's choose up. I'll take Jamal and Tutal. You can have Chubbs and Skippy. Let's go. My ball.
Okay. But you got skins.
Not a good negotiator? You don't have to be a good negotiator at McCarthy Chevrolet. McCarthy guarantees the lowest prices on a new Chevy or we'll pay you $10,000. We guarantee there's no need to shop anyplace else. McCarthy Chevrolet, I-35 and Santa Fe, Olathe.
Welcome to Hour 2 of the Midwest #1 weekly motorsports show, Track Talk, on the RacinBoys Broadcasting Network. Brought to you by McCarthy Auto Group. Once again, here's Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WH. We're not on WHB anymore, are we, Kirk? Yeah. Hour number 2 of RacinBoys Radio here from the McCarthy Auto Group studios in Independence, Missouri. Phone lines are open, and we're going to have to kind of fly a little bit by the seat of our pants today with the phones. Todd Surprise not sitting in the studio with us today because he is on vacation with his family. So we'll be answering the phones, kind of a cold answer. We'll just pull it up when you guys call in. So we appreciate it. You see the phone number there, 816-833-8553, 816-833-8553. Got the toll-free number there if you need it. Chat room is open. Hollywood Bob is checked in. Several other people. Got 28 people on there right now. I know a lot of people don't get on the chat room. They can just sit there and watch the video screen, but we'd love for you to hang out. We'll be talking more about local racing and what's going on in the local scene. We're going to show you here in just a couple minutes some video from Lakeside Speedway that I shot. Was it yesterday, Kirk? I went out and shot that video? Was it the day before yesterday? It was Thursday.
The hours just are
right.
They just run, they blur. It's all a blur.
Right.
Now, I think you were out there 2 days ago, right?
It was 2 days ago, I believe it was. So, anyway, we was out there. A lot of progress being made out there, and I think that one thing that I need to really make sure that people understand, we talk on and on and on about Mike Johnson. He's kind of the front man of this thing. He's kind of been the promoter. He wears the promoter's hat. He's well-spoken, good people skills. People like to talk to Mike and convey their thoughts to him. He's great in that leadership role. He's done a good job up at I-35 Speedway in Winston, Missouri. But let's not forget about Don Mars here a little bit. And, you know, that stood out a little bit more to me when I went out there and filmed on Thursday. When I saw dump trucks that said Don Mars on it, his construction business, and the amount of work that's going on out there. And I called Mike Johnson and said, "Hey, Mike, where you at? I'm out here at the track. I want to film a little bit." He said, "I'm up here at my track up in Winston, I-35. And by the way, we will not forget about that racetrack. We'll cover it. But long and short of it is that Don Mars was out there with the dump trucks and the bobcats and moving dirt and doing all kinds of different things out there. So let's not forget the value of Don Mars as a partner with his construction business, not only as a driver, but as a businessman in that industry, to where they're going to be a major part of the cleanup and basically kind of rejuvenate maybe the facility a little bit more because of his access to equipment and the stuff that he does in his business.
Yeah, that's what we talked about here several weeks ago when this all came about. One thing that you will notice with Mike Johnson and his racetracks, and I base this off what you see at I-35 Speedway, curb appeal means a lot to the new owners. They want the place to look as good as possible. They're going to make a lot of improvements. They've already started it. As you talked about, they fixed that back stretch wall. That's more for safety than anything else. But they're also working on the front parking lot and smoothing that all out.
Should we look at the video now?
Things. If you can get it to fire right now, before you do that, I better take that deal down there. So
okay, the video graphic. Again, flying without Todd Surprise here. Todd, if you're watching the show from wherever you're at, miss you here, buddy. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and shoot that off, and this is some video that I shot out at Lakeside Speedway. It's a little condensed version. This is some of the stuff that we're going to use on RacinBoys TV on Metro Sports. It's going to be starting here in a few weeks, so we'll will inform you. But there's the back straightaway wall, Kirk.
Now, what's that wall made out of right there? What is that?
Those are some kind of concrete blocks. They're portable that they move in. I've seen those at Terre Haute. I have mixed emotions about those kind of blocks. I'm not going to lie to you. But I still think it's safer than having that blunt wall there. But I'm just not a real big fan of having an open, blunt, concrete wall like that. I'd rather see a fence on it. I'd rather see them make a solid wall down there and put a fence on it. But I get what they're doing, and I'm okay with that. But my mind always goes back to Shane Meal at Terre Haute with those kind of blocks. So we don't see a lot of non-wing sprint car racing at Lakeside Speedway. You're looking right there. That is dirt up in turn 2. Remember, they're planning on building a second terrace like the old Lakeside Speedway, which had 3 that most of us that grew up going to the old Lakeside Speedway spent some time on. And right there is one of Don Marr's dump trucks dumping that dirt down onto the track. On the track up there on turn 2. So I don't know where all this dirt is coming from. I don't know what you've captured here as far as the video there. As you can see, the little bit of the wall. They're laying down dirt down the back. This is the entrance to pit.
They got rid of that old concrete out there, that rough old concrete out there in the parking lot?
I don't know if they just covered it up with gravel or not, but as you can see, many more truckloads of dirt. And there is a tree line there on the back straightaway. Now, this is over behind the grandstands, the tree line that we're looking at right here, and I'm not sure if they're going to tear that down or not. But that's kind of over on the west side of the property. Would that be the west side? I believe it would be.
I always get turned around Lakeside.
Right.
That'd be,
this
is
is
over on the west side.
This is over behind the pit shack, what we're looking at right now. And that tree line, as you can see, there must have been a bunch of old tires that were dumped somewhere on the property. They've piled those up, and they're going to get those hauled off. Dump truck again coming in, laying down some gravel there. They're going to smoothen out the pit road, getting into the pits, which I think is great. It looks like they've laid down quite a bit of gravel out in the front as well and leveled off things. Over and over, Kirk, we've said this. This is the one thing that Lakeside has needed, even way back in the Ted Carlson days. I mean, I hate to say it, but I was probably a little harder on Ted Carlson than I should have been back in the day. Called him a slumlord.
You did, didn't you?
I did call him a slumlord, but I'm going to tell you right now, the biggest regret I ever have is Ted Carlson giving up I-70. I can tell you right now, but don't get me going down that road. You know, you got to be
careful what you wish for.
You got to be careful what you wish for, and that's probably my biggest mistake that I've ever made is wishing that Ted Carlson wasn't the owner of I-70 again, because look at what we ended up with. But anyway, now we're going to take a little look down over off of turn 3 and 4. As you can tell, the tree line has been tore down over there. Look at all that brush that they've taken up. That property behind that tree line is Lakeside as well. And I think it goes out there about 150, 200 feet past that tree line. So you could expand on the pits a little bit if you needed to, and which I think they need to, because, Kirk, how many times have we seen it when there's a big race there? A lot of people end up pitting over there off of turn 3 and 4 in an area that's kind of sketchy to be pitting in, to be honest.
As you can see, they're doing some work in the pit area itself, too. So this is pretty massive, what's going on out there. Remember, we just had a big snowstorm here a couple of weeks ago, so this snow's just gotten melted off where they can really go to work. I'm sure they would have liked to have gotten out there a lot sooner than this. But
DPU was out there. They were getting the electricity on. They were having some kind of electric issue.
We're only 4 weeks from the start of the season, so they got a lot of things to get done.
Yeah. Well, it was fun to go out there. I had a chance to go up on the building, get an oversight of the whole facility, and it's amazing, really, what's going on there. And, Kirk, me and you talked about this a little bit, and maybe we could get somebody to call in or chime in on the chat room and talk about this. But
boy, that's a scary shot right there. You're a little bit too close to the edge for my taste there, man.
It's way up
Hold
there.
That camera.
Let me tell you, it's way up there. And I know Mike Johnson's concerned about people being up there as well, and rightly he should be. Hopefully, we'll be able to film from up on top again, because we didn't have that. We didn't have that luxury with the past ownership because of their involvement with their own internet show. They wanted exclusive rights, video rights to their own internet show. So hopefully, we'll be able to do that in the future. Get back up there, because that's where the shots are. That's where the best angles are, and we're going to be out there. We're going to be covering Lakeside quite a bit on RacinBoys TV on Time Warner Cable's Metro Sports. So. But it is exciting about where it's going and the capital improvements. And Kirk, here's where I was headed before that video stopped. Me and you were talking about it the other day, and we're going to put this up as a poll question. But what I would like to know is, for the listeners out there, what was the biggest day in the new Lakeside Speedway's history? It's been open now for 24 years. Or is it 25, 24 years?
1989. 24 years.
24 years ago. What I want to know is, what is the biggest day in the history of Lakeside Speedway?
Well, that's pretty easy for me to answer.
Now, hold on. Let me put some possibilities out there, all right? And for the listeners out there, you just chime in and tell me what you think. Opening day 1989, that's one of the biggest days, obviously, because that was the period when everybody went asphalt racing around here. That's when Riverside closed up in 88, Lakeside closed up in 88. The new Lakeside was pavement. I-70 was now pavement. The landscape of motorsports changed dramatically in 1989 in the local scene. That's got to be one of the options, right? The new Lakeside. Number two would be when Ted Carlson purchased the racetrack. I believe it was 96, if I'm not mistaken, 1996. That was just after the flood. Track was struggling at Lakeside. And Ted Carlson, most people thought, was going to bring some money into it. And we'll talk about some of the pros and cons to each one of these after I throw them out there. Number three would be when the track went dirt in 2000. And I think that's the one that most people are going to pick. In 2000 is when they put dirt on Lakeside Speedway. And I remember that day like it was yesterday, with 6,000 people showing up and the traffic backed up to 435 to see the first race.
Big.
It was a big day. And in fact, it was a big day for you as well, Kirk, because that was a deciding moment of you coming over here to Track Talk.
Yeah,
we don't need to get into that, but I'm just saying, you were talking NASCAR all the time, and you saw what was going on at Lakeside. You wanted to be a part of it, right?
Yeah, when you saw traffic backed up way out
Right.
on Interstate 435, coming in off of 435
Right.
onto Walcott Drive, and the traffic was backed up from the off-ramp to 435, getting into the racetrack, you knew this was pretty something special that you wonder, why in the world did they pave
it
that
in the
track
first place
to begin with?
Right. But then the final choice would be Mike Johnson and Don Mars making the purchase of Lakeside. So there you have four options. All right. I know we got people that are on the chat room right now. Nobody's saying anything, but we see that the 41 people are on there. Right now, I want to know which one was the biggest deal. Was it 89 when the track opened? Was it 96 when Ted Carlson took it over? Was it 2000 when they put the dirt on it? Or is it in 2013 when Mike Johnson and Don Mars took it over? What is the biggest moment in the history of Lakeside Speedway?
And I'll throw one additional one in there. I'm not sure where you'd rank it, as far as the impact of the facility and so forth. But I remember one night back in 1992. This was in May of 1992, Lakeside Speedway. It was a paved racetrack. They had a special NASCAR night at Lakeside.
I was there.
And here are the drivers that showed up. Davey Allison, who was at the height of his career at that time. He'd just come off a win at Talladega. And right after he made the appearance at Lakeside, he won that famous all-star race at Charlotte.
Not
where he
long
got
before
into
his
with,
tragic death
with
either.
Kyle Petty. And this was a little over a year when he lost his life. But Davey Allison was there at the height of his career. Harry Gant was there. Jeff Bodine was there. Buddy Baker, and Bobby Allison. I mean,
There was another one there too.
I can't
Chad
remember.
Little, I think, was
Chad
there.
Little,
I think he was there.
I mean, that place was packed, and long before there was any thought
But would
of
that
a
really-
Kansas Speedway.
Would that really
this
count as
event
one of the
happened.
biggest nights, though?
I think so, because I mean the crowd, it was huge. It was certainly one of the more memorable nights for me.
It was the
at
biggest
Lakeside
crowd to
Speedway.
date,
Yeah.
but the track had only been open for a couple years.
But you had all these former Daytona 500 winners.
Which
there.
one would you vote on, Kirk, out of all those that you just
The
mentioned?
night it first went dirt would be the number one.
I would
in my
agree.
mind,
I would agree with that.
because it was such an impact. I mean, people had starved for dirt racing back at Lakeside Speedway. And I know the reason why it started out as pavement.
Because Ed Southall said that we're going to go NASCAR. That's why.
That is because
we're going to get us a Winston Cup race here at Lakeside, and we're going to go pavement. He went down to Daytona with full intentions. Everybody had full intentions of that being a dirt track, and they talked him into making a pavement track. And Kirk, he told you, he's told many of people, well, we're going to get us a Winston Cup race here. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Did he tell you that?
Yes.
He said it himself, didn't he?
And, of course, in those days, we never thought about Kansas Speedway or even the possibility of having Sprint Cup, Winston Cup at that time here in this area. So as big a dreamer as he was, guess what? We ended up having Sprint Cup racing here.
Just 5 miles up the road, right?
That's right. You know, we all laughed at the time. Yeah, sure, that'll be the day. Right. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see Winston Cup racing around here. Sure.
I-70 was built with that idea as well. They had a better chance to get one at I-70 than they did at Lakeside, right?
They did.
Yeah. That was a sad deal, you know, with the ownership group that put that deal together and all the investors. I know there was countless $10,000 investors when Lakeside first opened up. And I know several of them that took a bath on that deal. None took a bath more than Clyde Ellis. I'll tell you this. I know that he spent just south of $1 million of his own money to keep that racetrack open during the tough times through the flood. When that track looked like it was doomed to be closed down, he made sure it stayed open and kept writing the check. So
if not for Clyde Ellis, I'm pretty convinced that we would not have racing out in Wyandotte County.
You think it'd already be closed up?
It'd be dead and gone, never to return again if Clyde Ellis hadn't stepped up and done what
I
he
won't
did.
go that far. Never to return again is a little too strong. I think
who else would have stepped in with the kind of money to build a track?
There was a track there with some bleachers and grandstands. Somebody was going to open that up. It wasn't going to sit there and just die. There was too many luxury items compared to other local tracks. I mean, let's be fair. With the grandstands, concession building it had, good lighting, it's got a wall all the way around it. It had a lot of things going for it. Somebody would open it up. Would it have been successful? Would it have went through more hands of ownership? Probably so. But I think somebody would have opened it up. I remember I won the first race after the flood in 93 and 94 in the Charger division. And that win got taken away from me, by the way. Said I rough drive J.D. Green. Anyway,
and that was before J.D. Green.
Didn't tell me until I went up to get my check.
That's before he was.
I went through trophy presentation and everything. Got the whole trophy and the whole deal.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I understand the deal between you and J.D. Green.
Right. There's the hidden agenda right there. Right. Yeah. Don't worry. I outrun him a lot more times over there.
This is long before he even thought about being a competition director.
Right. Exactly. Right.
See, I think you inspired him to do what he does today.
I inspired him to. I'll leave it alone. Trying not to go down that road too often. I've voiced my opinion for years. It doesn't do any good to keep regurgitating that. So, but anyway, I'm going to go with you, Kirk. I think 2000 was the most defining moment. Most people on here seem to think that this year is going to be the biggest moment. I don't know.
Well, I think that's always going to be bigger because what started out as a pavement track when it should have been dirt to begin with was back to dirt where it should have always been as a transition from the old Lakeside Speedway. And I think that night demonstrated very clearly what race fans in this town wanted to see from day one. And
well, at the time, though, you gotta admit, though, with I-70 going back to asphalt, right, it kind of worked. But like I've told people, oh, man, you raced at both tracks every week? No, nobody could do that because the tracks were so different. The setups were so different. And the amount of effort in pavement racing to make your car work from one track to the other was so huge, only a handful of drivers went back and forth. Not many. More late model drivers did. A few modified guys did. Very few Grand National guys or Charger guys did. So, and if you didn't win at I-70 back in those days, well, it didn't matter what you did at Lakeside. So
You've got to credit Mark Olson for making the final decision to
hey, speaking
spend
of
the money to, Patrick Penny and his outfit came in. They put the good dirt down and made it happen. So Mark Olson made the final decision to do that.
but it wasn't under his ownership at that time. The first year, I think people forget this. The first year that track was dirt, Ted Carlson still owned it
Did Mark purchase the track
in 2001.
2001.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
You remember when I'll never forget talking to Ted Carlson. I'm up there on opening night. Place is packed. 45-minute wait to get into the parking lot. Thousands of people there. Some people estimated 6,000 people with standing room only. And I'll never forget looking down at Ted Carlson and saying, Ted, I bet you wish you would have done this sooner, don't you? He looked back at me with his old cranky, old grumpy ass way. Nope, I wish it was still pavement. I'll never forget that. Packed grandstands, traffic backed up to 435, selling tickets like there's no tomorrow, food like there's no tomorrow, more cars in the pits and the grandstands than ever in the history of that racetrack. And he wished it was still dirt with 1,000 people.
And when you asked the follow-up question, why is that, Mr. Carlson? He said, what?
What?
Did you ask the follow-up question?
Why?
Why?
I did, but I can't remember the exact answer. I think it was dirt's dirty, if I'm not mistaken. No, it was, and you're right, Racer 45. It was Mark Olson is the one that pushed it. And I think that's obvious by the comments of Grumpy that night that he'd rather it be an asphalt track.
That just proves it right there, doesn't it?
Right. I have been hearing...
And he owned a dirt track at Park Jefferson Speedway up in South Dakota.
Right.
And he said that.
He owned two up there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Sunset?
No, he didn't own Sunset.
Oh, no,
Speedway.
Sunset. What was the name of it?
Park Jefferson's the one
But he owned four tracks at one time.
Yeah. He owned
Park
a track
Jefferson,
down at San Antonio.
San
Texas.
Antonio, Lakeside, and I-70. Those were the four tracks that he owned. Right. So he had three pavement tracks and one dirt track. Well, I will tell you that those were the heydays of Lakeside.
The culture was always dirt track racing in Wyandotte County, and except for short 4 or 5 years when it was not.
4 or 5 years.
The crowds.
What are you talking about, 4 or 5 years?
When it was, I guess, about 10 years, wasn't it?
It was 11 years.
Was it 11?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it was 10.
About 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
So except for the 10 years when it was not dirt racing in Wyandotte County, I think the fans spoke loudly and clearly what they really wanted.
Well, I have to be fair, though. At the end of last year, the crowds were no bigger than the pavement crowds of the last in 99. They definitely were not much bigger, if as big.
I think that
I would say when
flood really hurt.
When the track was pavement in 99, I'd say they probably averaged about 900 to 1,000 people there a week in the grandstands. And Kirk, you've got to admit, at the end of last year, I bet they had 900 to 1,100 people in the grandstands.
Yeah, it was not good. So the question is, what's it going to be like now under new ownership, new people running the racetrack, a new year, the floods a couple of years behind us? What kind of weather are we going to have? Is there going to be live TV? These are all questions that we're going to find out. Just what was it, and what was the reason behind the crowds tailing off at the end of last year? I think we're going to get some answers to that for sure coming up here this season.
You know, I know that we've been critical of every track promoter here. And we've had every one of them ticked off at us at one point or another. Kirk, you know that.
Oh, yes.
Every one of them, even the ones that we consider friends, right? We try not to get too friendly with the promoters. We try not to, but when you're in this industry, it's tough sometimes not to kind of become friends with these guys. I mean, you work with them. It's more of a, maybe not a friendship, but more of a, what would you call it, Kurt?
Well, I'd like to think it's a working relationship.
Working relationship would probably be more like it. You're right.
We hope it's professional.
Professional, but there's times, and
Yeah.
obviously we've made some people mad over the years. But the fact is that you know what? We just talk about what people are talking about, and if that ticks off somebody, we're sorry about that. That's just what we do here. We just talk about our feelings and our thoughts and what direction we think things should go, and kind of tie our opinion to it, and that's what it is.
Well, my feeling is, and this kind of goes back to the NASCAR discussion we were having earlier, we live in the United States of America,
All right.
where people have a right to speak their mind.
Unlike in NASCAR,
it's
right,
only
Kurt?
in countries under tyrannical rule where they come down on you for speaking negatively about the higher-ups. I think that in this country, it's been proven time and time again that whatever you say should not be negative in terms of how successful any entity is. If you're strong in your beliefs and in the way you do business, then that should stand on its own. And if it's the right decisions being made, the public will follow along. If it's not, then people are going to argue against it. They're going to criticize it, and that's going to be that's just the way life is.
Isn't that the reason we're probably being more critical about NASCAR and what they've done with Denny Hamlin? I mean, it's because we believe in freedom of speech and having our First Amendment. And that's kind of what we do here. But I, with all that being said, the point I was trying to get to is that, you know what, the one thing for sure that we're going to do is we're going to be supporters of motorsports, right?
We're still passionate about it.
Don't
You
think
and I
for
are
a
very
second.
passionate about racing.
Don't think for a second that we want to bring the sport down, and that we're trying to degrade something or devalue what's going on in local racing. There's not a bigger fan of local racing than we are. I promise you. There's a lot of big fans, and we're not saying we're bigger fans.
We're not trying to destroy it. That's our business here.
But
we want it to succeed.
We just want to make sure that people
Yeah.
talk about what's going on and not get a bunch of fluff, not a bunch of stroking, a bunch of people saying, you know, oh, everything's great when it's not, or talking about sensitive issues. We're going to talk about those. But at the same time, the positive is far going to outweigh the negative on what we do here. I promise you that, folks. And I feel so positive about the direction that Lakeside Speedway is going in right now. You know, I had a talk with Mike Johnson a couple days ago, and I asked him if he'd do an interview with us down there at the car show, and he goes, well, I don't really have nothing new to say about the purse. I said, Mike, I'm not going to beat you up on this purse. I've already voiced my opinion on the purse, what I think. It's not like, you know, this is the all, end all, be all of Lakeside because of the purse. Got a lot of great things going on out there, and we're going to talk about them. Once in a while, you know, going to be a little uncomfortable with what we talk about, but generally speaking, though, we're going to keep it positive about what's going on out there. And the positive thing that's going on right now is the capital improvements, the momentum the racetrack has, and let's just hope that in the end, Kirk, we can get more people in the grandstands out at Lakeside, because I think that's all of our goal as local media, is to get more racing fans. We understand that we got to get some young people involved in our sport as well, and we've got to do whatever we can to get those people involved. So support your racetracks. If you want to have an opinion to make things better, we can talk about it right here on Track Talk.
And there's a lot of people that think that our message board does a lot to drive down racetracks, and I disagree with that as well. I think here it all comes back to freedom of speech. Fans have opinions. Drivers have opinions. Everybody's got an opinion on how track ought to operate, how a series ought to operate. But you know what? The person that's putting the money up, the owners, they get to make those decisions.
They earn that right.
We get to stand back and maybe criticize it, but they get the final say because they're putting the money up, and I respect that, and I respect every track owner that risks his money to go out there and operate a racetrack in this day and age. It's got to be as tough as it's ever been to make a racetrack profitable and viable. And I respect every one of these guys who go out there and do what they do.
And we understand, Kirk, when it kind of ticks them off when we get in areas that sensitive to them. Because, listen, there's money at stake here.
Well,
right?
none of us like to be criticized.
No.
You don't like to be criticized?
Hell no, I don't like to be criticized.
But when you take on a public entity like that, I guess, it's kind of like politicians. It's kind of like people in the public eye, People are going to take pot shots at you now and then. That's just the way life goes.
Kirk, Hollywood Bob is reporting on the chat room. I don't know if this is official or not, but it sounds like no racing at Sedalia State Fair this year. Not surprised by that.
We suspected that.
Yeah.
After the
I think we put up a poll, will the racetrack ever
year.
open again? I think we put a poll up right after that accident, and I can't remember what the results were, but if I remember right, it seems overwhelmingly that most people don't feel very good about the track opening again due to the lawsuits from down there.
I remember when you and I walked out of there that night, it just didn't feel good, did it?
No.
We were praying for everybody to get
well. It was
well
a sickening feeling.
After that incident down there when the car in that the cops race, what do they call that? Battle of the Badges.
Battle of the Badges, right.
Ended up, and that could have been a whole lot worse than what it turned out to be.
Could have been horrible.
And we're thinking about all of those still that were injured in that incident down there. But I know you and I were walking out of there at the time thinking, is this the last time we'll ever see racing here at the State Fair?
Right.
And right now, I mean, I'm not saying it's dead for good, but no scheduled races at the fair this year. That doesn't bode well for the future, at least as we sit here today. We'll see what happens.
Well, and then you had the accident with Jordan Creason down there as well.
Right.
And, we saw him down at the Jesse Hockett Daniel McMillan Memorial at Lucas Oil Speedway, and he was looking like he was going to recover from his injuries. I know that they are racing with Danny Lasowski as their driver right now. He was out in the Southwest driving the Creason Motorsports car and not having the run they were hoping for out at Yuma, but still, I'll tell you something about Jordan Creason's rig, though. They've got the coolest looking hauler. This kind of Generation X looking big grill wrapped around fenders looking cool looking toter home rig, man. I mean, it is neat looking. It's unlike most of them that you see out there. But anyway, yeah, Kirk, that was a pretty big deal out there that weekend. And again, we're sorry that people were injured, and we hopeful that we'll see racing at Sedalia again in the future. Maybe Clint Brown give us a little bit of update there. That's a bad deal. Also, getting a report now. I haven't got confirmation on this, and I don't know if John or Junior are listening. Maybe we should put a call into them. They probably know. I have not been able to access inthepits.net. I don't know. It won't allow me to enter the website.
Well, I get it. It's coming up on my.
Guess they might have me blocked. I don't know.
I don't know how they do that.
I don't know how they. Well, you know how they do that, Kirk. That could be done.
Well, I'm bringing up inthepits.net right now.
All right. Well, look up on there because somebody posted. Let me see here. Racer 45. It's me. Saw on In the Pits where Mark Olson has sent out points fund checks. Is this true? Not really sure if that's true or not, to be honest with you.
I hope it's true.
We've said all along that we thought that might happen. Once he makes a deposit into the bank from his sales, and first of all, I think I don't know if he made money on it. Hopefully Mark Olson came out where he didn't cost him money. Hopefully he was able to put a little bit of money away over the years and maybe sell the track for more than what he paid for it. I don't know what he paid for it. Don't know what he sold it for. But hopefully he came out a little bit on that. Because we'd hate for somebody to lose everything they have trying to promote racing. You would hate that. No matter how they ended their promoting career, you hate it when somebody loses everything trying to promote a race. And it can happen very easily, folks. And so let's hope that Mark Olson did send out some money. Mark Olson maybe not went out the way that he wanted to go out. And, as far as point fund money and dare I say even respect-wise, because a lot of people lost a little respect the way he handled some of those situations. I'm not one of them. I still respect Mark Olson. I think that he was one of our better promoters over the years. Unfortunately, not real happy with the way things ended out there, but when your guy's in a financial rut, what do?
But if he ends up paying that point fund,
He pays that point
kudos to
fund.
Mark Olson.
Right.
That's positive news right there. If that's the case, I really hope that happens.
I got to believe it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Mark Olson wanted to not pay people the money. I don't think he did it out of sheer greed.
No.
Being desperate, okay. To need money, yeah. Maybe. That part I understand. Again, folks, I've promoted a couple races in the last couple years. And it doesn't take much to lose thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
That flood was just absolutely devastating.
Ass kicker.
I mean, I'm amazed that he was able to come back and operate another year after that.
Mm-hmm.
To be right honest with you, I mean, that was just unbelievable. Just how devastating that really was to his business.
Well, I just hope Mark understands that we though we weren't happy with the way he handled things at the end, and I think he could have been a little more open and communicated better with his supporters. That's the only thing I was disappointed in, because Mark typically was a good communicator. He might not have went down in the pits. I think that's another thing that rubbed a lot of team drivers and members. You didn't see him down there shaking hands, telling everybody thanks for being there. He was kind of the man behind the curtain. But at the same time, his phone line was always open on Monday. You could always call him, and if you had a question, he'd answer. He'd debate with you on the phone. But I think there's a lot of people that don't realize the risk that he took. And I would say that he probably didn't take his – if there was anybody to take a risk, out of all the people that took a risk along the way since 1989, would it be fair to say, Kirk, that Mark Olson took the least risk of all? And let me tell you why, and then you tell me if you agree or not. He took the least risk of all the people that got involved, from the ownership group in 89, from Ted Carlson, to even the current ownership, because the moment that he purchased it was year 2 of it being a dirt track, and it was smoking. It was kicking ass financially for that period, the early 2000s. I mean, big crowds. And Mark never told me a number of exactly how many people were there on an average, but I kind of got him pinned down one night between 2,000 and 2,500. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, that's a monster number for a weekly track. Most tracks average 1,000 or less. Wouldn't you say, Kirk? Would you be fair to that?
Yeah.
1,000, 1,200. Really good tracks maybe
Right.
do 1,500 average a week. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 1,000 is a really good number for a weekly track.
Right.
So, I mean, he doubled that, more than doubled that.
I know what it takes to run a national tour race, and the purse is big. Well, it's up there around $35,000 time you put in the support classes. And a person doesn't need much more than 1,300 people to come out on that deal. And you still need about 350, 400 people in the pits. So just think about it. Take the weekly purse, $15,000, $20,000, let's call it. I don't know what it is. It might be more than that. Some tracks might be less at others. But let's just say $15,000 to $20,000 is the purse. Well, do the math.
$10 a head to get in.
$12.
I don't know what they were.
$12.
What were they charging back in the early part of the decade? It wasn't
10.
quite $12.
10. I think Mark Olson made it 10.
Yeah.
Probably in the last 3 or 4 years he was there. So it doesn't take much to lose money quick. But at the same time, you should be able to make some money as long as you can put 1,300 people in the stands.
It's a roller coaster ride. You got to take advantage when the good nights are there and pocket that money away for the bad times that you're going to get. That inevitably happens when you're promoting races, and it came in spades for Mark Olson in the latter part of the decade, earlier part of this decade, with the flood. That can get eaten
for whatever he made
very
back
quickly.
For whatever he made back in the day, when the heyday in the early 2000s, I'm sure he had to take that money and spend it to survive during the last half of his decade.
Then when the fuel prices went up and the economy went bad and the expenses kept going up and up and up, and you couldn't charge any more for tickets because you wanted the customers that you already had, it just became ever more. It just doubled on itself how bad it became.
Mm-hmm.
So Mark Olson, at my time since I've lived down here, it's 1986 I moved to Kansas City. He will go down as the most stable promoter in Kansas City in my time here.
Since
For
86.
For the length of time that he served as a promoter in this town, he is the one guy to be able to have that kind of stability.
And that
over
includes
period
his
of time.
time as the general manager
Right.
of Lakeside and I-70 when he ran it for Ted Carlson as
Right.
well. You have to include that.
Yeah.
Because those were from 96 to 2001 until the new ownership. Was it 2001 when they took over I-70? McDonald's?
I
think
like
it was
that's right. I
2001.
can't remember.
Those were the heydays of I-70.
Right.
The
Nick-
90s were the heydays of
And the
I-70.
economy was great back in those days.
Even when the Roberts owned it, the 90s were the best years of I-70. Some people will argue that the early 70s were as good, but I'd beg to differ. I mean, you just go back and look at the grandstands at I-70 in the 90s. We got a lot of video up there of it.
The early 90s were just pretty special out at I-70 Speedway.
Even the mid-90s.
Right.
Even the mid-90s.
But
The
again,
90s, all together, really all the way up to
Right.
2000.
Again, the economy was as good as it's probably been in our lifetime
Mm-hmm.
during those years. And so that we saw an expansion of racetrack facilities all around, and it was a lot different then than it is today. That's for sure.
Kirk, get on the chat room there, and let's kind of read. Gary Donaldson, I guess, posted something up on the in the pits forum board, and somebody has taken that and posted it up on our chat room link. So let's kind of take a look at that. Thanks, Mark Olson. And word goes a long ways, and following through with it means a lot. You didn't have to do it, but you did, and I thank you for all. I thank you for that, and I'm sorry. Race on. Best regards, Gary Donaldson.
Now, what would Gary Donaldson be sorry for?
Well, he's probably critical of not getting paid.
Oh. Well,
You read that one more time, Kirk. You got it right there?
maybe there is more that meets the eye. Thanks, Mark Olson. A man's word goes a long ways, and following through with it requires a lot. You don't have to, but you did. You didn't have to, but you did. So that tells me that he paid off that point fund.
Right.
Thank you for that, and I'm sorry. Good. That's a pretty good source right there. Gary Donaldson, one of the top racers in the Grand National class at Lakeside Speedway, is indicating here that he has been paid, and that's great news.
That is
I'm
good.
very glad to hear that.
I am good with that. Well, and again, one of those issues that we talked about that doesn't make everybody comfortable, and I'm sure Mark wasn't comfortable when we were talking about it.
And you know what? We probably should have given Mark Olson the benefit of the doubt that he would do
Let's
that.
be fair, Kirk. He was going to come on this show. You know it, and I know it. So you can say that all we want. We could have extended an offer out to him, but he wasn't going to come on here and talk about that. You know it. He didn't want to come on this show anyway, let alone come on here and talk about him not paying the point fund, right? Right?
Well, I
mean, how many times did he turn us down? And now he did come on a time or two.
he came on.
Usually when I'm not here, though. Usually when you're doing the show.
Now, what's that mean?
I don't know. I'm the asshole.
Well, good for Mark Olson.
I'm
That
happy.
is that's outstanding. Drivers paid their point fund for 2013, it appears, or 2012, it appears.
Well, let's just hope that we have a better.
And you know what? That helps Mike Johnson and Don Mars as they embark on this new venture.
Mm-hmm.
That happened, because you know how drivers are. They really don't care who owns the racetrack. They remember what happened in the past, and a lot of that bad can carry over to the new, the old to the new. And so by Mark Olson taking care of business on that end of it, that makes it much better moving forward for what's going to happen at Lakeside. And I know Mark wants that to happen. He spent a lot of time and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that racetrack. The last thing he wants is to see Lakeside Speedway not do
I agree.
well.
I agree. I don't know who put this up under a generic name 7425. A points check came in the mail, but very reduced. That's better than nothing, I guess. You know,
again, he
the
didn't
points
promise
money.
He didn't promise how much was going to be paid in that point
right.
fund.
But here's the thing: since NASCAR left our weekly racing series, we've quit running NASCAR. The point fund money has been a joke, to be honest with you. Those were the heydays, man. Guy could win several $1,000s at the end of the year.
Do you think?
I think it pays $1,500 to win the USRA championship out there. That's what it pays.
And I think the drivers would like to know what that point fund is going to be every year. I know a lot of times it's kind of hard based on income from, car registrations and 50-50 raffles and so forth, what the exact number is going to be. But you'd kind of like, and I know the racers would like to know at least pretty close what that point fund's going to be before the end of the season.
Well, they're spending money at the end of the year that sometimes they don't have. I just got to get through the year. Oh, I can't wait till the season's over. I remember those days. Well, running for points, not in the hunt for the championship, but you're still running in the top 5 in points. You want to get a good finish. Maybe you got your eyes set on second or third in the points, and you're spending money, and you're just about tapped out. Oh, do I remember those days well.
Makes it tough.
I don't miss them a bit.
Hey,
racing for points was one of the most intense, financially demanding things I've ever done.
The least fun of all of racing, but you did it. Why? Because
you wanted to be a champion. Everybody wanted to be a champion.
Well, not only that, if you're going to race every week, you wanted as much money at the end of the year as you could possibly get to pay for
if you're really
everything.
smart though, Kirk, you don't race for the point fund money because it doesn't weigh out. It doesn't weigh out. A-Mod winner got $800 point check, is what I'm reading on here.
What's it been in the past?
I don't know if
can't
that's
remember.
Tim Carrick or not. So,
yeah.
74.25. A-Mod winner got $800, and that would be Tim Carrick, right? I'm not saying this is Tim Carrick on the chat room. I'm just saying that would be Tim Carrick.
It's better than nothing, isn't it?
Right. It's better kick than Swift kicking the old gonads. That's for sure.
Hey,
before I know you wanted to jump in here and say something else, but Kirk, it's been kind of silent on the Central Missouri Speedway front. We thought we were going to see some races down there this year. That's kind of fallen off the radar a little bit, hasn't it?
Haven't heard anything here in recent months about what might or might not happen.
Need to
at
talk to
Central
Karen
Missouri
Darling
Speedway.
about that.
But again, I think like we talked about last year, the racetrack wouldn't take a whole lot to get that back up and going
Equipment,
again.
I think, is the issue,
Equipment
and
is the
sponsorship
issue.
is an
Right.
issue too. So I don't know. Do you think it'll open this year? If you were to guess, Kirk,
I'd say no.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody came up with equipment to prepare the racetrack and work the track, then I think it could happen.
Do you think a lot of people assumed that it was going to open and Earl was going to get behind it?
I think some people did, but I didn't go there. I think no, it's.
I
done
thought
for
once Earl sold
Susan.
the equipment,
Yeah, I
it
thought
was
that
done,
it.
didn't you?
Yep.
Huh? I mean, really?
I think that was it. Yeah, I don't think there was any coming back after that point. But the racetrack, the facility itself, as far as I know, it's still sitting there. It's still, I mean, it wouldn't take, the buildings and everything are still in good shape. It wouldn't take a whole lot for somebody to go in there and spruce that place up and get it back going again.
Let's do it.
No.
Huh?
Aren't we into pay-per-view now? Isn't that what we're doing?
Yeah. Let's open up a racetrack. Call it RacinBoys Speedway.
Yeah, let's open up the track so we can have races and pay-per-view, right?
Weekly pay-per-view events. We're going to open up the gates. It's going to be carload pricing. Hot dogs are going to sell for $1. Pit passes are going to be $10. Grandstands $8. Or do we do the carload? We have one section. Here's what you do.
And the pay-per-view will really help the turnout.
Or better yet, we don't even open up the grandstands, Kirk.
Yeah.
Huh? You can't
Just have a pay-per-view.
pay-per-view
right?
only.
That's it. Yeah, racers come, they don't have a crowd to race in front of. That'd be a whole lot of fun.
Here's what you do, Kirk. It's coming to me. All of a sudden, it came to me. General admission free. Free grandstand tickets. No, free or $5.
And we pay the purse off pay-per-view.
Pay the purse off of pay-per-view.
No, I don't like that idea at all. I'm laughing and you're not laughing.
I'm
You really
serious.
think that would work, don't you? You think that would really make it come out ahead?
Pack the grandstands with a cheap ticket. Pack the pits with a cheap pit pass. And subsidize it with pay-per-view.
Sure. Yeah, that'll work. Not. I don't think so.
You know?
No. You need to think these things through here before you spit these ideas out.
Just an ideal guy, man.
Yeah.
Just spitting up some ideas. What do you do there?
You still, at the end of the day, got to pay the bills. You know,
I like it.
they still have to be paid.
I like it. Have one section dedicated to carload. So if you get here and those seats are available, once those seats are full, you cut off the line out there, and then people buy the $5 ticket.
And we just make it up in the concessions, right? That's how we make our real
We just
money.
make it up on pay-per-view
And pay-per-view.
and pay-per-listen. You can listen to it for $5, or you can listen and watch it for 10, and not leave. See, and people would do it because people would say it would cost me more than $10 to drive down there. You're not buying any of it.
No.
I can Harvey Wallbanger. I can just see Earl Walls leasing the track to Scott. Yeah, right.
I don't think Earl is going to be leasing anything, and he's already been down that road before.
He would to Karen.
I don't think the leasing part is something he's going to be interested in anymore.
He would. He would do.
Well, to the right people,
the right
he
people.
would. Yeah. But
RacinBoys wouldn't be the right people.
no, I don't think so. Hey, there's a couple of big events going on.
Mm-hmm.
One this weekend, the Beatrice Spring Nationals going on. They opened up last night. Dylan Smith picked up the opening night win up at Beatrice, Nebraska. That's always you've been up there to that event. Middle of March.
10 years
you
ago, probably.
never know what kind of weather you're going to get.
Murr and I went
at
up there.
Beatrice this time of the year, but they did get the show in last night. Dylan Smith over Brendan Stiggy and Brandon Pruitt in the IMCA Hobby Stock last night. That's Devin Smith. Tyler Fry of Belleville, Kansas, winning the IMCA Sport Mods, IMCA Stock Cars. Lance Bergman of Beatrice. And as I mentioned, Dylan Smith in the IMCA Modified over David Murray Jr., Jesse Sobbing, Jay Notaboom, and Ricky Alvarado finishing the top 5. They'll finish up that event tonight. And this next week is the big event down in Humboldt, Kansas. The King of America 3 will be going on down there on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, March 21st, 22nd, 23rd. And got the B-Mods running down there as well. So looking forward to that big event down in Humboldt. That's the first big major race event here
That's
in
next
this
week?
immediate area next weekend down in Humboldt.
Man, wish I could see that.
You're going to be down to Devil's Bowl.
Yep, doing our first RacinBoys Radio, free RacinBoys Radio broadcast of the year. Devil's Bowl, the Spring Nationals. So can't wait to get down there for the Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour. You'll be able to hear both of those nights live for free on RacinBoys. And I'm not sure when we're going to do our next paid per view before June 1st, but definitely Eagle Nationals, one-night broadcast, June 1st, Eagle, Nebraska, pay-per-view. And we hope people are enjoying that stuff. Don't forget, Track Talk is brought to you by McCarthy Auto Group. You can check out all the new and certified used cars at kccars.com. And they've got everything that you would ever need. 4 great collision centers, 7 dealerships. If you're into Toyotas to Chevrolets and everything in between, Nissan, Hyundai, they've got it for you. Over 1,600 new cars and over 600 certified used cars. So only one place to purchase your new car. Love my new Chevy Silverado that I purchased here right before we went out to the Southwest. It's been a great truck, and really surprised by the mileage that it's getting for a pickup truck. So not too far from what my old Equinox
I'm
was
glad
getting.
you made it back before it rained or snowed, since you had to put part of your suitcases and
Right.
stuff in the back.
Yeah, we had to do that.
You made it
'cause
back.
We didn't realize we
Without it
were going to
getting
be
wet.
doing that pay-per-view out at Yuma in the last second. We had to do a little equipment change. But, yeah. Kirk, have you seen this new Formula One car? Have you seen this thing?
I have not. This is the first time I've seen that. Where they at?
I don't know where that's
They're
at.
in Australia, I believe, this weekend.
Is that
Formula
not the
One.
weirdest looking deal you've ever seen?
I don't like that at all. Looks like some kind of a
It
spaceship.
looks like something Don Garlett's made. Doesn't it?
Nah, he wouldn't design anything.
Oh,
like
he
that.
would too. Don't you remember Swamp Rat with those tires tucked in the front of it? Looked just like that.
That looks like some kind of a tricycle.
That's crazy.
I don't like the looks of that thing at all.
Right.
Is that what the Formula One cars look like now?
That's one of them. That's one of the brands.
Now, Lewis Hamilton.
No, is that a Formula One or is that no? That's a Grand Am car, Kirk. I'm sorry, I said Formula
Oh,
One.
thank goodness for that.
That's
I'm glad
Grand
you
Am.
clarified that.
I think that's Grand Am car,
That's why we're watching Speed right now.
and you're not. I guess some people might be watching it.
You know, we got the road racing going on out at Kansas Speedway in August this year. A big night event.
I'm going to be out of town on that one
We're
too.
going to be following that here pretty closely this year.
You're going to have to cover that event.
Yep, we'll be out there doing that. And so they had the test session out there in the fall. I think it was like the week after the Cup race in the fall out there, and watched some of the cars go around that new road course out at Kansas Speedway. I'm not sure where this is located. What we're watching here, it's Grand Am cars, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Now the Formula One's out in Australia this weekend.
Oh, did you see where Danica Patrick? Somebody was over there saying that they'd like to see her come run Formula One. Oh, I know one thing I want to bring up, and I know it's NASCAR and it's the end of the show, but I've got to tell you this. Did you see that Danica Patrick is the 7th highest paid driver in NASCAR?
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that. I mean, the money she gets from the sponsorship, GoDaddy, and all of the endorsements that she gets because she is a big star. We all know that. Does it comport to her exploits out on the racetrack? No, not even close. But I don't think anybody should be surprised that she'd be ranked that high. And
Danica Patrick ranks number 7 in earnings of $12.9 million in 2012. Her merchandise was NASCAR's 9th bestseller in 2012. According to sources, one of the highest online retailers said that they didn't put a number actually on how much money she made on merchandising, but I'm sure it's pretty high. 7th overall. Dale Earnhardt Jr. makes more money than anybody when it comes from his pay. And this doesn't include his merchandising, but with winnings and his salary, he made $25.9 million last year. Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Not surprising at all.
Yeah. Jimi Hendrix. How about that?
Jimmy Johnson.
He's dead. Jimmy Johnson is 2nd. And what did he say that he made? $23 million.
Where's Jeff Gordon ranked in that?
Jeff Gordon made $18 million. Casey Kane made $12 million.
Sounds about right.
Can you believe that kind of money?
Not surprised by any of those numbers.
It's unbelievable. And Hendrick Motorsports is the most valued NASCAR team at $357 million. That's up 2%.
And the big question is, has NASCAR drivers lost touch with the common man?
Yes.
I think after the days of Dale Earnhardt was about as rich a driver as there ever was in NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
But you would really never know it by just looking at the way he ran his life. I mean, you just look at the guy. He's pretty much, the same scruffy figure he was back when he first came into NASCAR. Therefore, he's still related to the average race fan.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you see these drivers that jet around, and do things that the average person can only dream about doing, and just that connection with the driver and the fan, I think, is one of the big reasons why NASCAR is just kind of lost their fan base just a little bit. They got to
Kirk,
get that back.
Before we wrap up the show, let's again talk about Snake Saturday, the Clyde Ellis car show that's going on down there straight across the street from the bowling alley in Finnegan's Hall. I believe people are allowed to get in. They started at 7. I think they have to be in there by 10. Can you give everybody a little bit of a rundown on what's going to take place down there today?
The parking lot is located just west of Howell, north of 18th and east of Fayette, across from the North NKC bowling alley. Car show started in 1977 by Clyde Ellis, as we talked about earlier.
Has it been that long?
That's right. That's when it was started.
I don't remember it being that long ago.
Provides racers an opportunity to display their new race cars here before the start of the season.
That can't be right, Kirk. 77?
That's what it says here in the press release they sent out.
I didn't think Snake Saturday was open in 77. But I could be wrong on that.
CARB will be holding a favorite car vote, with the winner taking home the trophy. Demonstration of the Jaws of Life will be conducted by Butch Smeltzer, who told me at the CARB...
He's not going to be at Lakeside this year.
At the CARB Hall of Fame dinner, he's not at Lakeside this year. Why?
I just don't get that.
I don't understand that at all.
He has the truck. He gives a quality service. I just don't get it.
Anyway, CARB will have...
Hopefully it's not on a cost-cutting deal.
Just to finish up here, CARB will have several games for the kids, giving away 6 bicycles. Children must be present to win. Exact giveaway time announced early this afternoon. CARB has also entered a float for the Snake Saturday Parade today. So if you're heading on down there, look for that. CARB-supported tracks, I-35 Speedway, Lakeside Speedway, and Valley Speedway. They'll all be located in the festival area, have schedules, registration information, all today.
Valley's a little spread out. They have practice day as well today, don't they, Kurt?
As far as I know, they're planning on having it, too.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
Always kind of weird having it on the same day as Snake Saturday. I don't know.
I've been watching the little pile of snow out here in the front yard, Scott. There's still just a little bit of snow when I drove in this morning.
There's not much left, though.
It's almost all gone.
There's not much left. Yeah.
We had to plow out a ton of snow out of this driveway when we got back.
We didn't plow
to
any of it, Kurt.
I didn't plow it, but
you did?
We had it done.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's amazing what money can do.
Yeah. They had to bring in the bobcats and everything to scoop it all out of here.
And you were such a good guy getting Scotty Cook's car cleaned off for him.
Yeah, we cleaned it up.
He didn't think you were going to do that. He said, "You think he'll do that?" I said, "He'll absolutely do that." Of course,
well, I'm glad you said that before.
Well, I knew you would do it. You told me you were going to, so I kind of had an idea. Kirk, we're going to wrap up the show. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Don't forget, Track Talk, both hours brought to you by McCarthy Auto Group. Check them out at kccars.com. And again, don't forget, next week we'll be back on with RacinBoys Radio, live coverage of the Devil's Bowl Spring Nationals. That'll start on Friday night. You'll hear both Friday and Saturday night. Myself, along with Scotty Cook and Brian Hobart, will be making the call. It'll be free audio, not paid per view. It will be free audio next week. And looking forward to the local racing scene getting underway. Don't forget, we'll be doing RacinBoys TV on Time Warner Cable's Metro Sports again this year. And we're going to be kicking that off about the time Lakeside Speedway gets underway, roughly right in that area. We're not exactly on the start date yet, but stay tuned. RacinBoys.com. We'll get you that information. Looking forward to doing that again this year, aren't you, Kurt?
Yeah, we're working hard on it.
Yep.
We're going to have it all ramped up.
Some are working harder on it than others. I'll just say, right there, that guy. All right, for Kirk Elliott, I'm Scott Traylor. We'll see you next week here on McCarthy Auto Group's Track Talk with the RacinBoys.